Welcome to Mind Decoded, where we explore the psychology behind human behavior. Let's decode today's topic. You know someone who's brilliant on paper but can't hold a conversation. Someone with straight A's who alienates every colleague. Someone with technical skills but zero ability to read a room. They have high IQ, but they're failing at life. And you've probably wondered why intelligence doesn't guarantee success. Here's what's missing. Emotional intelligence. The ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions in yourself and others. Psychologist Daniel Goleman's research shows that emotional intelligence predicts life outcomes more accurately than IQ. People with high emotional intelligence earn more money, have better relationships, experience less stress, and report higher life satisfaction. This isn't soft skills. This is the hard skill that determines whether your other skills actually translate into results. Before we begin, a quick disclaimer. This content is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered medical, psychological, or mental health advice. If you're experiencing mental health concerns, please consult with a qualified mental health professional. Emotional intelligence breaks down into 4 core skills: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. Each skill builds on the previous one. You can't manage emotions you don't recognize. You can't understand others' emotions if you don't understand your own. And you can't build strong relationships without awareness and management of emotions in both yourself and others. Let's start with self-awareness. This is the ability to recognize your own emotions as they happen. Most people think they're self-aware. Research shows they're not. Psychologist Tasha Eurich found that 95% of people believe they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% actually are. The gap between perceived and actual self-awareness is enormous. Self-awareness means you can identify what you're feeling in real time. Not an hour later. Not when someone asks, right now, in this moment, what emotion are you experiencing? Most people can't answer that question accurately. They confuse emotions. They label complex feelings with simple words. They're not connected to their internal emotional state. Here's why this matters. Emotions drive decisions. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio studied patients with damage to the emotional centers of their brains. These patients could think rationally. They could analyze options logically. But they couldn't make decisions. Without emotional input, decision-making became impossible. They'd spend hours deciding what to eat for lunch because nothing felt right or wrong. Emotions aren't obstacles to good decisions. They're essential inputs. When you lack self-awareness, your emotions control you without your knowledge. You snap at your partner and don't know why. You make impulsive purchases and can't explain what triggered it. You avoid important conversations and don't recognize you're feeling fear. Your emotions are running the show, but you're not conscious of the performance. Self-awareness requires naming emotions specifically. Psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett's research shows that people who use precise emotional vocabulary have better emotional regulation. Instead of, I feel bad, they say, I feel disappointed, or, I feel overwhelmed, or, I feel embarrassed. The specificity matters. When you accurately label an emotion, your brain can process it more effectively. Vague labels like, stressed, or, upset, don't give your brain enough information to respond appropriately. The second skill is self-management. This is regulating your emotions so they don't regulate you. Self-management doesn't mean suppressing emotions. Research is clear that suppression backfires. When you try to push emotions down, they intensify. Psychologist James Gross found that people who suppress emotions experience higher heart rates, increased stress hormones, and worse memory for events. Suppression consumes mental energy and makes emotional regulation harder, not easier. Effective self-management means experiencing the emotion fully while choosing how to respond to it. You feel angry, but you don't yell. You feel anxious, but you don't avoid the situation. You feel frustrated, but you don't quit. The emotion is valid. Your response is strategic. This requires what psychologists call cognitive reappraisal. You reinterpret the situation to change its emotional impact. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Initial interpretation. They're a jerk who disrespected you. Emotional response. Anger. Reappraisal. Maybe they're rushing to the hospital. Maybe they didn't see you. Maybe they made a mistake like everyone does sometimes. Emotional response. Reduced anger, increased understanding. Same situation, different interpretation, different emotion. The research on reappraisal is compelling. Studies show people who use cognitive reappraisal experience less stress, better relationships, and improved mental health compared to people who suppress emotions or ruminate on negative interpretations. Reappraisal isn't denying reality, it's choosing which aspect of reality to focus on. Self-management also means understanding emotional triggers. What situations reliably trigger anxiety, anger, or frustration for you? Most people don't track patterns. They experience the same emotional reactions repeatedly without recognizing the common trigger. When you identify your triggers, you can prepare for them. If you know that criticism triggers defensiveness, you can notice that reaction starting and choose a different response. The third skill is social awareness. This is recognizing emotions in other people. Reading facial expressions, tone of voice, body language. Understanding what someone is feeling even when they don't say it directly. Psychologist Paul Ekman spent decades studying facial expressions and found that basic emotions produce universal facial patterns across all cultures. Fear, anger, disgust, happiness, sadness, and surprise create recognizable micro-expressions that flash across faces in fractions of a second. Most people miss these signals. They're focused on what they want to say next. They're thinking about their own concerns. They're not actually paying attention to the person in front of them. Social awareness requires shifting attention from your internal experience to external observation. Here's what makes social awareness difficult. People often hide their emotions. They say, "I'm fine," when they're not. They smile when they're hurt. They agree when they're angry. If you only listen to words, you'll miss the emotional reality. Social awareness means noticing the gap between what people say and what their tone, face, and body reveal. Research by psychologist Nalini Ambady shows that people can make accurate judgments about others' emotions from very brief observations. Showing participants silent video clips as short as 30 seconds, she found they could predict teacher effectiveness, relationship dynamics, and emotional states with surprising accuracy. The information is available. Most people just aren't looking for it. The fourth skill is relationship management. This is using your awareness and regulation skills to build strong, productive relationships with others. It means communicating clearly, managing conflict effectively, inspiring and influencing people, and working collaboratively. Relationship management requires all the previous skills. You need self-awareness to understand how your behavior affects others. You need self-management to respond to conflict without escalating it. You need social awareness to recognize when someone is upset, overwhelmed, or needs support. Without these foundations, relationship management is impossible. Effective relationship management means matching your communication to what the other person needs. Sometimes people need solutions. Sometimes they need empathy. Sometimes they need space. If you always respond the same way regardless of context, you'll consistently miss what the situation requires. Social awareness tells you what they need. Relationship management delivers it. Psychologist John Gottman studied thousands of couples and found that emotionally intelligent communication predicts relationship success. The key isn't avoiding conflict. It's managing conflict constructively. High emotional intelligence couples don't fight less. They fight better. They stay calm during disagreements. They listen to understand rather than to rebut. They take breaks when emotions escalate. They repair after fights rather than holding grudges. Here's what's important. Emotional intelligence is trainable. Unlike IQ, which is relatively fixed, emotional intelligence improves with practice. Each time you pause to identify what you're feeling, you're strengthening self-awareness. Each time you choose a response rather than reacting automatically, you're building self-management. Each time you notice someone else's emotional state, you're developing social awareness. The business case for emotional intelligence is overwhelming. Research by Travis Bradberry found that 90% of top performers have high emotional intelligence. In leadership roles, emotional intelligence accounts for nearly 90% of what separates outstanding leaders from average ones. Technical skills get you hired. Emotional intelligence gets you promoted. But emotional intelligence isn't just career advantage. It's life advantage. People with high emotional intelligence report better mental health, stronger relationships, lower stress, and greater life satisfaction. They navigate social situations more effectively. They recover from setbacks faster. They build support networks that sustain them through difficulty. Understanding emotional intelligence doesn't make you emotionally intelligent. Practice does. Start with self-awareness. Throughout today, pause and ask, what am I feeling right now? Name it specifically. That's the foundation. Everything else builds from accurate emotional awareness. And that's how the mind works. If this helped you understand yourself better, subscribe for weekly psychology insights. Thanks for watching.